If the Supreme Court strikes down the tariffs, it's not all over for that $2,000 dividend payment or $2,000 stimulus check that millions of Americans are really counting on right now. In fact, there's a backup plan that nobody's really talking about. And that's exactly what I want to dive deep into here in this video. We've heard it directly out of the president, as well as we heard out of the White House economic advisor, Kevin Hassett, just the other day, that they could easily implement new tariffs relatively quickly and start gathering that money that they want to use to reinstate the distribution of those payments out to the American people, as the president has called on since back in November of 2025. And let me tell you, they're not just talking about it. They have a detailed game plan ready to execute. Now, I also do have this article right here, which I'm going to pop up in just a second so you can see and read for yourself exactly what they're talking about right here. And I will also explain the details within that article because there's, again, just a lot of people out there that are very worried, like, hey, what if the Supreme Court really does come in, they rule against and they strike down the tariffs? Does that mean all bets are off and game over on the $2,000 dividend, right? Well, a lot of people out there that are massively struggling right now financially, that need that money more than ever, are very concerned, thinking this is my only lifeline. This is the only potential financial relief that I have, and I need this really, really badly. I'm getting comments every single day from people saying, I'm counting on this money. I don't know how I'm going to make it through this year without this payment. My bills are piling up. My rent is behind. I need this money desperately. And I understand that. I really do. That's why I want to give you the full picture here, right? Well, again, that's why I want to talk about it, because there's so much consideration of, well, the Supreme Court may actually strike these down. What's the administration going to do? What is their game plan? What are they going to do if plan A doesn't work? And here's the thing. They have a backup plan. They actually have multiple backup plans. And I would tell you this much. If the Supreme Court strikes those down, which we're waiting for that announcement any day now out of the Supreme Court, and when we do get that announcement, if the Supreme Court strikes down the tariffs, you can better believe that the administration, the president, is, number one, going to be really mad, okay? He's going to have a total cow about it. He's going to be absolutely livid. We all know how he reacts when he doesn't get his way, right? But then also, he's going to do anything he possibly can to reinstate those tariffs or duties immediately. And I wouldn't be shocked if they're even bigger, even more aggressive than the tariffs that are currently in place right now. In fact, based on some of the things we've been hearing behind the scenes, I would almost guarantee they're going to come back stronger if they get struck down. Anyway, let's pop this article up right here, right now. Feel free to read through the details of this. Let me explain some of the key takeaways out of this article here. Snorts. Okay, so again, at any given point here, we are waiting for that official ruling out of the Supreme Court on these tariffs. And let me tell you, the anticipation is absolutely killing everybody right now. Every time there's a Supreme Court session, people are on the edge of their seats thinking, is this it? Is this when we find out? Right now, these are the tariffs that were implemented back in April of 2025. That feels like forever ago at this point, doesn't it? But these tariffs have been in place now for several months, and they've been generating massive amounts of revenue. We're talking hundreds of billions of dollars coming into the Treasury, and that money, according to the president and his administration, is supposed to be distributed back out to middle and low-income Americans in the form of those $2,000 dividend payments. Now, over the last couple weeks here back, we've had 3 different times now that the Supreme Court has come together on hearings and basically announcing different rulings, right? Well, we were anticipating all of those 3 times that they'd possibly be having a ruling on these tariffs. They haven't done it yet, right? They're dragging their feet. They're stalling. They're milking it. Okay, well, what does that mean? Is that good or bad? Not really sure. Nobody really knows, right? We don't know. Some people say, well, if they're taking this long, maybe that means they're going to rule in favor of keeping the tariffs. Other people say, no, they're taking this long because it's such a controversial decision and they're trying to figure out the best way to strike them down. The reality is, we just don't know what's going on behind those closed doors in the Supreme Court chambers. But there's speculation that any day now, again, it could be days, it could be weeks, it could still be a few months until we get that ruling. We don't know when it's going to be, right? The Supreme Court doesn't exactly give us a heads up and say, hey, mark your calendars, we're announcing on this date. They just drop these rulings when they're ready. But we know that it will be coming at some point. That's guaranteed. This case is too big, too important, affecting too many people for them to just let it sit there forever. And let me tell you something else. This ruling, whatever it is going to send shockwaves through the entire economy. If they uphold the tariffs, great. That money keeps flowing in, and presumably those $2,000 payments can happen. But if they strike them down, chaos, absolute chaos. Not just for the $2,000 payments, but for the entire economic strategy of this administration. But anyway, here's the deal, and this is where it gets really interesting. According to an interview that the White House economic advisor Kevin Hassett had back on January 16th, so that was however long ago now, right? Week or two ago, whatever. But anyway, when he was out in this interview, he indicated that if the Supreme Court strikes down these tariffs, that the president could implement a 10% tariff immediately to replace a bulk of that income coming back to the United States in the form of those duties. Okay, that's just a 10% across the board that he can implement right away. Now, let me break this down for you because this is important. This isn't some hypothetical, maybe we could do this kind of thing. This is a concrete plan that they've already worked out the details on. The president has the authority under certain laws to implement a 10% tariff without needing congressional approval, without needing to go through the same process as the original tariffs. He can literally do it with the stroke of a pen. And that 10% tariff, while it might not generate quite as much revenue as the current tariffs that are in place, it would still bring in a substantial amount of money. We're still talking about potentially over $100 billion a year, depending on how it's structured and what products it applies to. But then they could also come back and they could backfill and get more additional income by also implementing, as you can see here in the article, either the 301 authority or the 232 authority. Now, if you're not familiar with what these are, let me explain this to you, because this is crucial to understanding how they're going to make this work. The 301 authority basically allows the president to impose tariffs or other trade restrictions when there are unfair trade practices happening. So they could investigate and determine that certain countries are engaging in unfair trade practices, intellectual property theft, subsidizing their industries unfairly, whatever, and then slap tariffs on those countries under the 301 authority. The 232 authority is even broader. This one deals with national security. The president can impose tariffs on imports that he determines are a threat to national security, and the definition of threat to national security is pretty broad and vague, which gives the president a lot of flexibility. They could argue that being too dependent on foreign steel is a national security threat. Being too dependent on foreign electronics is a national security threat. Being too dependent on foreign anything really could potentially be framed as a national security issue. So you see what they're doing here? They've got a three-pronged approach. The immediate 10% tariff gets money flowing in right away. Then they layer on the 301 authority for unfair trade practices. Then they layer on the 232 authority for national security concerns. And boom, you've basically recreated the same revenue stream, maybe even more than what you were getting from the original tariffs that got struck down. Again, kind of backfilling and getting some of the additional revenue that they want to get from the tariff revenues that were maybe struck down by the Supreme Court. It's actually pretty clever from a strategic standpoint, even if you disagree with the policy itself. They've thought through the contingencies. They've got their backup plan ready to go. So when it comes down to this ruling out of the Supreme Court, whatever they decide, okay, whatever it happens to be, it's certainly going to cause some chaos. It's certainly going to cause a little bit of a hiccup in the system. And I'm probably understating it by calling it a little bit of a hiccup. This could be massive disruption. Think about what happens if they strike down the tariffs. First, there's the immediate question of what happens to all the tariff money that's already been collected. Does that have to be refunded? We'll talk more about that in just a minute. But then there's also the market reaction. How are the stock markets going to respond? How are businesses going to respond? How are our trading partners going to respond? And then when the president comes back and immediately implements new tariffs, which again, I'm telling you right now, he absolutely will, how is everyone going to react to that? Are they going to challenge those new tariffs in court too? Probably. Are we going to end up in this endless cycle of tariffs being implemented, challenged, struck down, re-implemented? Maybe. But at the end of the day, no matter what happens, whether the tariffs stay in place or they are struck down by the Supreme Court, you better believe that the president and the administration, if they're told that they can't do something, they're absolutely 100% going to do anything they possibly can within the authority and within the power that they have to reinstate that and get that money flowing back into the United States. This is not an administration that takes no for an answer very gracefully. We've seen this pattern over and over again. When they get blocked on something, they find another way. When a court tells them they can't do something one way, they do it a different way. They're persistent. Whether you think that's admirable determination or concerning overreach probably depends on your political views. But either way, it's a pattern we've seen consistently. Now, about, I don't know, maybe a week or 10 days or so ago, give or take a little bit, I'm not sure exactly the date that it happened, but the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, was also out in an interview, and he indicated that the Treasury has plenty of money to reinstate refunds in the event that the tariffs are struck down by the Supreme Court, and they need to issue refunds to basically give all that money back, like hundreds of billions of dollars that they may need to repay back in the form of refunds. He's indicating, yeah, we're good. We've got the money. We can certainly send back that money in refunds. And when he said this, I was sitting there thinking, really? You've got hundreds of billions of dollars just sitting there ready to refund? Because that seems like a lot of money to just have readily available. It's a lot of money to be refunding, right? How would they do that? Logistically, it seems like a total mess and a nightmare. I mean, think about the complexity of this. These tariffs were collected from thousands of different companies, importing millions of different products over the course of several months. How do you even begin to figure out who gets refunded what amount? Not only would it be that logistically a total nightmare, but could you imagine how long it's going to take to send back hundreds of billions of dollars worth of refunds to all of these different places that are owed all this money? Could you imagine that? What a freaking mess. We're talking about a process that could take years, literally years, to sort through all of that and get everyone their refunds, which is also why we've heard out of other people within the administration that have said, yeah, if the Supreme Court strikes these down, we're not giving refunds. We'll see what happens here. Maybe they give refunds, maybe they don't. So even within the administration, there doesn't seem to be a consistent answer on this refund question. Scott Bessent says one thing, other officials say something else. Nobody really knows for sure what would happen. All of this is still very much up in the air right now, and that uncertainty is part of what makes this whole situation so stressful for everyone involved, especially for those of you who are counting on that $2,000 payment. But when it comes down to those coveted $2,000 dividend payments, the $2,000 stimulus check, whatever you want to call it, again, I just want to say this, no promises. Nobody knows what's going to happen here, okay? I've made that very, 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 very clear in my videos. Since the president originally floated this idea back in the beginning of November, on November 9th, to be exact, when he made that post saying a dividend of at least $2,000 a person, not including high-income people, will be paid to everybody. Okay, he made that post. I've highlighted it in other videos. In fact, I have videos here on the channel going back to November highlighting that post that the president made. I have all kinds of videos here on the channel highlighting the remarks out of the president since then in video clips, showing the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent talking about it, the White House economic advisor Kevin Hassett discussing it, as well as other officials and lawmakers weighing in on this. I have videos of all of them talking right here on the channel. You could scroll back over the last few months here and watch all those videos if you wanted to hear exactly what they've said on this. And let me tell you, I've documented everything because I know how important this is to so many of you. I've saved the clips. I've analyzed the statements. I've tried to read between the lines to figure out what's really going on. Regardless of what happens, we don't know. That's why I keep saying no promises. We don't know what's going to happen. I'm not here to give you false hope. I'm not here to tell you that this $2,000 payment is definitely 100% guaranteed coming, because it's not. There are too many variables, too many things that could change, too many political considerations at play. But the president continues to say, yeah, a little later this year. Just recently, within the past few weeks, he's made comments about this again. Later this year, we're going to get those payments out. It's going to happen. Be patient. Okay, I guess we got to take your word for it that this is going to happen. And to his credit, he hasn't backed away from this promise. He's still talking about it. He's still committed to it, at least publicly. Whatever happens here, the money is still going to be there, apparently, according to what they're saying here. And the president still seems to be very much committed to sending those $2,000 payments out again to middle and low income people, not high income people, not rich people. He's made that very clear. Not rich people, not high income people, middle and low income people. He's emphasized this point multiple times because he wants to make it clear that this isn't going to the wealthy. This is going to people who actually need it. Now, what's the threshold as far as the income goes? We don't know yet. As I film this video, we do not have the official proposal yet. And this is one of the most frustrating parts of this whole thing. We're months into talking about this payment, and we still don't have concrete details on who qualifies and who doesn't. But according to the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, again, back in November, I believe it was November 11th, I have a video here on the channel, by the way, talking about him talking. You can watch it for yourself and hear exactly what he says. It's from back on November 11th. Go back and check it out if you want to, but he said basically income threshold of $100,000 or less. Now, I, in my personal opinion, think it's going to be less than that. I think we're probably looking at something more like $75,000 or maybe even $50,000 as the cutoff. Why do I think that? Because if you look at previous stimulus payments, they've typically phased out at lower income levels. And if they really want to target this money to people who need it most, they're probably going to set that threshold lower than $100,000. But we'll see when we get that official proposal at some point when we get it. Okay, and believe me, the moment that official proposal drops, I will be making a video about it, immediately breaking down all the details, who qualifies, how much you'll get, when you'll get it, all of that. So when we get that official announcement out of the Supreme Court and the ruling, whatever it happens to be, there's going to be chaos around that ruling. I guarantee it. Whatever it happens to be, there's going to be chaos, okay? If they uphold the tariffs, you're going to have half the country celebrating and half the country outraged. You're going to have people saying, great, now we can get our $2,000 payments, and other people saying, this is terrible for the economy. This is going to raise prices on everything we buy. But if they strike them down, the president is going to be really, really, really mad. Okay, I think we all recognize this. He's going to be mad, and he's going to make it very clear. We're probably going to see some pretty strongly worded posts on social media. We're probably going to see press conferences where he expresses his displeasure with the Supreme Court's decision, and as a result, he's probably going to retaliate, and he's going to take action immediately to reinstate any revenue-generating tariffs or like-kind duties and get that money coming back into the country as quickly as he can. I'm talking within hours of that ruling coming down, we could see new tariffs announced. That's how fast this could move. They've got the paperwork ready. They've got the legal justifications prepared. They've got the whole thing mapped out. They're just waiting for the word go. Okay, so one thing, if you haven't noticed, and again, I'm not here to take political sides whatsoever. That's not the purpose of this channel. That's not what I do in my videos. I cover the money, the benefits, the payments, the programs that affect people's financial lives. That's what I'm focused on here. But I think we can all agree on this, regardless of what side of the political aisle you're on. When you tell this president he can't do something, he will do everything he possibly can to defy that and say, yeah, I can. You say I can't. Watch me. I'm going to do it anyway, right? We've seen this pattern over and over and over again. When a court blocks something, he finds another way. When Congress says no, he uses executive authority. When critics say it can't be done, he does it just to prove them wrong. Again, whether you think that's a good leadership quality or a concerning one probably depends on your perspective, but the pattern is undeniable. So I think we can all agree with that. So anyway, if the Supreme Court tells him no, he's going to say, yes, I can. Watch me do it. Right? And honestly, based on everything we've seen and everything we know about the authorities he has available, he probably can find a way to do it. Maybe not exactly the same way, maybe not with exactly the same tariff structure, but he'll get money flowing in from somewhere. So anyway, I will certainly keep you posted on this. For those of you that are concerned about this, thinking this is your only lifeline, you're relying on this money and you need it to come in fast, I'm right there with you. I understand the stress. I understand the anxiety. I read your comments every single day. I see how many people are struggling and hoping and praying that this money comes through. I will continue to keep you posted. That is my promise and my commitment to you. I will watch it all very closely and bring you updates as we get more information. The moment that Supreme Court ruling drops, I'll be making a video. The moment we get any new information from the administration about the $2,000 payments, I'll be making a video. The moment we get details on income thresholds, payment dates, distribution methods, anything, I will be covering it here on this channel. I've been following this story since day one. I've covered every development, every statement, every update, and I'm going to continue doing that because I know how important this is to so many of you. This isn't just some abstract policy debate. This is real money that real people are counting on to pay their bills, feed their families, keep a roof over their heads. And I take that responsibility seriously. I'm not going to hype this up and give you false hope. I'm not going to tell you things are guaranteed when they're not. But I am going to give you the facts as I know them, the latest information as it becomes available, and my honest analysis of what I think it all means. So make sure you're subscribed to this channel with notifications turned on, because when this news breaks, and it's going to break soon, you want to be among the first to know. You don't want to be sitting there days later hearing about it from someone else. You want to get the information immediately so you can plan accordingly. Otherwise, as always, I always like to throw this out there because I know this helps so many people in this community. If you're on Medicare, if you are one of the 67, nearly 70 million people on Medicare, and that number keeps growing every single day as more baby boomers reach that age. If you need to enroll in Medicare this year, 2026, if you're turning 65, if you hate your Medicare plan, if you have a special enrollment period opening up for you, if you need help finding the right Medicare coverages for you and your personal needs, if you have questions on Medicare, whatever it happens to be, please call Chapter Medicare right there. Phone numbers there on your screen. In the last 1 year or so, since I partnered with them to help those of you in this community completely for free, about 10,000 of you in this community have called that phone number right there to get free help. Let me say that again. 10,000 people from this community have called that number. That's incredible. And what's even more incredible is the results they're getting. Again, collectively, the thousands of you getting help have saved $2+ million just by calling that phone number and getting free help. $2 million. That's money that's staying in your pockets instead of going to insurance companies. That's lower premiums, better coverage, reduced out-of-pocket costs. That's real money that makes a real difference in people's lives. A ton of you have already called so far this year. I mean, like hundreds and hundreds, maybe even 1,000 people so far this year. I'm not sure the exact number at this moment, but again, I know hundreds and hundreds of you at a minimum have already called that number so far this year in 2026, and we're not even that far into the year, just a handful of weeks right now. And the reason so many people are calling early this year is because many of you realized at the end of last year that your Medicare plan wasn't working for you. Maybe your premiums went up. Maybe your drug coverage changed. Maybe your doctors dropped out of the network. Whatever the reason, you're not happy with what you've got, and you're looking for something better. Anyway, I would like to show you these. These are just a stack of comments I've pulled out of the comment section over the last, say, 2 months or so from those of you that have reached out, saving a ton of money. And let me just read you a few of these because they're pretty amazing. Called Chapter, saved $180 a month on my premiums. That's over $2,000 a year. I was paying for stuff I didn't need. They helped me get better coverage for less money. The representative spent an hour with me going through all my options. Never felt rushed, never felt pressured. I thought I had a good plan until I called them. Turns out there was a much better plan available that I didn't even know about. These kinds of comments just keep coming in day after day, week after week. And again, I also have this document right here, which also highlights people that are saving hundreds of dollars a month, thousands of dollars a year that are on Medicare, calling that phone number right there. And here's the thing. Medicare is confusing. There are so many different plans, so many different options, so many different rules and regulations. Part A, Part B, Part C, Part D, Medigap, Medicare Advantage, prescription drug plans. It's overwhelming, and a lot of people end up in plans that aren't right for them simply because they didn't understand all their options. That's where Chapter comes in. They're licensed insurance agents who specialize in Medicare. They know all the plans available in your area. They can compare them side by side. They can explain the differences. They can help you figure out what coverage you actually need based on your health situation, your medications, your doctors, your budget. And again, this is completely free. You're not paying them anything for this help. Again, give them a call if you're on Medicare. If you hate your Medicare plan, you feel like it doesn't properly cover you or whatever, call them, ask your questions, see what options or flexibility you have right now. I think you may be surprised, okay? A lot of people assume they're stuck with their plan for the whole year, but that's not always true. There are special enrollment periods. There are exceptions. There are situations where you can make changes even outside of the normal enrollment period. But you won't know unless you call and ask. Just anyway, give them a call, see what they can do for you, and just see what options you may have, okay? There's a lot of different options. You may have something. They have access to over 20,000 plans across the country. 20,000! That's an insane number of options, and they can sort through all of those to find the ones that are actually available in your area and actually make sense for your situation. By the way, after you talk to them, drop a comment down below. Use the word chapter within your comment. That's the key word that I search for. I'll grab your comment. Oh, by the way, let me know how it goes. Let me know how much you saved. Let me know what your experience was like. Let me know if they were helpful. I will grab your comment and I'll add it to my stack here, and I'll continue to add it and feature it in upcoming videos just like this one. I love being able to share these success stories because it encourages other people to call and get help too. And the more people who call and save money on Medicare, the better. Anyway, phone number's there for you. Free Medicare help. Give them a call. I think you'll be shocked with how extremely helpful they can be. Seriously, if you're on Medicare or about to be on Medicare, just make the call. What do you have to lose? It's free. You're not obligated to change anything. Just get the information and see if there's a better option out there for you. Anyway, I look forward to reading your comments down below. And seriously, drop your comments. Let me know what you think about this whole Supreme Court situation. Do you think they're going to uphold the tariffs or strike them down? Do you think the $2,000 payments are actually going to happen? Are you counting on this money? Let me know in the comments. And again, make sure to use that word chapter within your comment if you call them for Medicare help. That's how I find those comments and feature them. But beyond that, I want to hear your thoughts on everything we talked about today. The tariffs, the potential ruling, the backup plans, the $2,000 payments, all of it. Your comments help me understand what information you need, what questions you still have, what topics I should cover in future videos. And look, I know this is a stressful time for a lot of people. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of waiting. There's a lot of hoping and wondering if this money is really going to come through. I get it. I'm not here to add to that stress. I'm here to give you information, to keep you updated, to help you understand what's happening and what might happen next. So until next time, hang in there. Stay informed. Don't make any major financial decisions based on money you don't have yet. Hope for the best, but plan for the worst, and check back here regularly for updates, because as soon as I know something, you'll know something. Have a good one. Take care. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Share the video with anybody you know who's waiting on that $2,000 payment or who's concerned about what's going to happen with these tariffs. The more people who have accurate information, the better. And I'll see you in the next video. Take care, everybody.